Hey everybody, welcome to Keyword Crypto. This is Michael. I had a few listeners reach out and ask me to interview somebody from the Veet project. So Richard was kind enough to come on, and he just gave a basic breakdown, ABC breakdown of what Veet is, what it's trying to accomplish, and why you should support it. I've got some links in the show notes if you'd like to support the show. It's always helpful. Other than that, thank you for your support and enjoy the interview. Welcome, everybody. It's Michael, Keyword Crypto. I have Richard from Vite joining us today. And I had a lot of requests from Nano fans who listen to the show who wanted to learn more about Vite. And I'd asked them to explain why they wanted it on the show. And they're like, yeah, I don't really know. So I thought I'd have Richard come on and kind of do the basic ABCs of what Vite is and how it interacts with the crypto space, and why he thinks, or why Vite thinks this project is so important to the future of cryptocurrency. So welcome, Richard.
Hey there, Michael. Great to be on your show.
So why don't we get into, first off, a little bit into who you are, how you got into Vite, how you got into cryptocurrency. Give us a little intro about yourself.
Yeah, sounds good. Richard Yan. I am the co-founder and chief operating officer of Vite. We started this project 4 years ago. Let me just get into how I got into crypto in the first place. Found out about crypto, Bitcoin very early on, didn't pay much attention. Someone sent me 2 Bitcoins as a gift for my wedding, sold immediately, worst trade ever. And then I got back into the game in 2018. That I come from a traditional finance background, worked on Wall Street for more than 10 years, Goldman Sachs, Two Sigma. And at that point, I was sort of doing my own thing already. I was an entrepreneur. A friend of mine introduced me to my current co-founders, who were enthusiasts of crypto, and in particular Nano. And they had this idea of bringing smart contract to Nano. Now, so at the time, Nano, smart contract, all way over my head, delve into the rabbit hole, found it quite cool, actually. So then ended up doing this project with them. So yeah, in 2018, got back into the game, was introduced to my current co-founders. They are crypto enthusiasts. In particular, they're big fans of Nano. They wanted to add smart contracts into Nano. And from my side, crypto, Nano and smart contracts way above my head, but I have been catching up. So Veet has been operational for almost 4 years now, and we've launched a decentralized exchange. We got our mainnet running in 2019, and our next step is to try to build a Veet bridge that will allow cross-chain to happen. So happy to get into specifics on each one of those.
So why, you said you got into the smart contract, like you delved into the idea of smart contracts on Nano. What stopped you from just doing smart contracts on Nano?
So in order to develop smart contract on any existing layer 1, you need to do a fork. And so I believe that back in 2018, 2019, the Nano Foundation, the Nano team was not so interested in the entire class of problem of smart contracts. I actually remember having some kind of interaction with Colin, either via the Veet account or my personal account, about smart contract. And I think he was very much of the view that smart contracts don't actually solve problems, or at least that's not the focus that Nano wants to go into. You know, the whole mantra of Nano wanting to be good at one thing and therefore focusing on it. So that's why you can't really build smart contract on Nano. So that's why we have to go off and then do our own thing.
So is Veet a fork of Nano, or is it a completely separate project?
It's not a fork of Nano. It is inspired by Nano for sure, though. So in order to get the smart contract working, the code base can't just be a simple copy and paste and then adding some bells and whistles here and there. There needs to be some systematic rethinking. And outside of smart contract, we also added quite a few other things too. So I'm happy to go into all of those. But so the way we think about it is that the core overlap between Veet and Nano is the DAG ledger, right? So Nano's very well known for the block lattice ledger structure. And we basically have the same exact ledger. We use that for simple, normal transactions. We use that for smart contract transactions. But on top of that, we also have introduced something called a snapshot chain, which is essentially a delegated proof of stake consensus algorithm, because we do not see, at least at the time, a viable consensus algorithm for Nano. And separately, we've also added anti-spamming mechanism, which ultimately came back and hit Nano, I think earlier this year, when multiple exchanges had to stop withdrawals of Nano due to that spamming attack.
Yeah.
We added something called a locking model. So in order to secure a certain amount of transactions per second, you need to lock a certain amount of Veet. And the more Veet you lock, the more quota, we call it, the more throughput / quota / transactions per second you get. And when the network is super jammed, that requirement is dynamically adjusted. And this introduces the speed bump and prevents us from having the same kind of spamming problem. Yeah, so those are the main differentiations, I would say. But of course, there's also the smart contract aspect, which are decentralized exchanges built on top of.
So before we get into the nitty gritty of Veet, can everybody listening pour one out for poor Richard for selling his 2 Bitcoin that he got for his wedding present? Because that's always painful.
Yeah, it's expensive lesson. Bought it back, but at much higher valuation.
Yeah,
it was a good wedding though. Good wedding, still married, so that's good.
Nice. Okay, so let's get into Veet. So it's not Vite, because I look at it and I'm always like, is that like Latin? Is it Vite? Or,
Veet stands for fast in French. So
okay, nice.
Some people call it Vite. Some people say, that's what I called when I first met my co-founders. Hey, I want to join Vite. No, it's Veet. Okay, Veet it is.
Sure, you can join, but you have to learn how to say it right first.
That's right. There's actually a meme with a lady saying Veet on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Nice.
But yes, that's how we pronounce it. It means fast in French.
Is your co-founder French, or is just liked the word?
No, they are not French. I think they're Chinese.
Okay.
Just like me.
Okay.
I think the decision had to do with I don't know, a combination of domain name possibilities and like ease of remembering. The fewer syllables, the better. And also just embodiment of the idea of being fast.
That's hysterical, because when we had Richard Hart on the show, years ago, he made fun of us because our name was too long. And he was like, you need 3 letters, hex. Everybody remembers hex. And I was like, bro, calm down, man. But it's true. Yeah. Like Veet's a perfect example. I was like, it's short, it's sweet. The domain name, if the domain name is available, like that kind of stuff, you got to kind of think ahead of on with that kind of stuff. And it's, it's smart.
I don't really know. I don't know hex that well, but I think sooner or later
you're not missing anything, dude. You're not missing anything.
Okay. But I think you have, you kind of run out of 3-letter names or acronyms.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of expand into the 4-letter universe.
And unless you have the money to kick down like, $50,000 to buy the domain because somebody has it, then it's just not worth it.
Right. Yeah. That's why EOS has to be called EOS, right?
Yeah.
Because they basically ran out of sensible 3-letter names. They're like, EOS. Let's just call it EOS. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So you gave a quick like brief description of DPoS and this and that. So why don't we get like from the very beginning what you were trying to do, how you figured out how to solve it, and then maybe like the next steps, like where you want to go next with it.
Yeah. So like I said, my co-founders were big Nano fans, huge Nano enthusiasts. One of them actually went to one of the forums for Nano and proposed adding smart contract, but I think that suggestion was shut down or ignored. So that was my CEO, Charles, my co-founder. And so then we started planning the possibility of adding smart contract into the DAG ledger, the block lattice architecture. And the main value proposition of this whole thing is essentially scalability of layer one smart contract platform, right? So that's a mouthful, but if you think about what Nano is trying to solve, it's trying to be money, truly peer-to-peer, easy to transfer at zero cost, and having limited supply, and so on and so forth, right? So the thing is that that's great, but if you want to build DeFi on top of Nano, if you want to make applications that are censorship resistant, have no single point of failure, you can't really do that. So there are now Nano, I think payment systems or gateways, or there are these applications that use Nano to play games, for paying for games and so forth. Those are all centralized third-party censorship, where there's a third-party trust involved sort of applications. And in our case, we wanted to totally expand on that and take advantage of what Ethereum has brought into the crypto ecosystem. And so that's why we're adding the smart contract platform. Our programming language is called Solidity++. It's very similar to Solidity, but it's asynchronous. So instead of having sequential function calls, you do these messages that get passed around. And that helps speed up things a little bit more. And on top of this, like I mentioned, the snapshot chain, which introduces a DPoS consensus algorithm, which also solves the issue with not really having a consensus algorithm at Nano's level, at least back in 2018, 2019. And then the anti-spamming mechanism that I mentioned through Veet locking. But I think the bigger breakthrough that we had was launching the first DAG-based order book decentralized exchange. So that's also a mouthful, right? So DAG-based, that's just based on a DAG ledger. So super fast, a truly decentralized exchange where the order book, the matching engine are all decentralized instead of, say, IDEX, the Ethereum-based decentralized exchange, where they actually centralize certain components because of performance constraints of the underlying chain. And then the other thing about our DEX is that it's order book. So it's not the same as the automated market makers you see on Ethereum, on BSC, where you can only do market orders. And the reason why they do it that way, aside from the convenience and the innovative interface, is actually also having to do with the underlying performance of the chain. So if you do an order book DEX, you allow people to put in limit orders. That puts a lot of stress on the chain. If too many people try to make limit orders, that could cause problems, and it could get to the limit of the scalability of the chain pretty quickly. So the fact that the order book DEX actually works well on your chain is a testament to its workability. So yes, so our DEX is called Vitex, Vitex, and it's been operational since 2019. We got quite a few different third parties, gateways running on top that facilitate trading for non-Veet native assets. One of them is actually called Vino. So I don't know if you guys are familiar. I think one of the people originally involved with Vino was on this show. His name was Automatic Blues.
Yeah.
Automatic Blue. Yeah. And so he was instrumental in bringing that forward. I don't think it's with the team now, but he was definitely one of the pioneers. And Vino is a gateway that allows Nano to trade on the Vite-based decentralized exchange.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry, I've been meandering a little
keep going,
bit, but I think that okay, So the focus, right? So the focus of what I'm trying to say is the decentralized exchange it started as a toy. Essentially, wanted to prove that the chain works, right? It's like building a car to prove that the highway works, right? But now the car sort of just becomes bigger and bigger and more sophisticated, and having more people sitting on it and having more features, having Wi-Fi, for example. So, and VTEX is sort of that car, right? Now, through this process, what we learned is in order for this decentralized exchange to grow and to serve our customers well, we need to come up with a more robust mechanism to allow trading of non-Veet assets on this decentralized exchange in a trustless manner. So essentially, what I'm trying to say here is if you want to trade assets issued on Veet, for example, Veet or VCP or Vitamin coins, these are all coins issued on the Veet network, by the way. VCP is what you use to redeem Veet goods from the Veet store. I can send you all the links if you want to show your listeners.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Vitamin coin is a, have you heard of Vitamin coin, by the way? If you haven't, you should totally test it out. Yeah. So Vitamin coin is a meme coin, right? For Veet. It's like Banano. You must have heard of Banano.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So Vitamin coin is the equivalent of Banano on Veet. It's a great community. It's a lot of fun and it's health focused, as you might have seen from the title. And yes, so anyway, so if you want to trade these Veet native assets on VTEX, you can do it trustlessly. But how do you trade BTC or ETH on VTEX? Right now, the way it works is that these are wrapped assets, and a gateway custodies the native asset, issues you the wrapped token that you can use to trade. But we're trying to move away from that. So we're going to come up with something called the Veet Bridge. Our white paper is already released earlier this year. And Veet Bridge is essentially a generic protocol that allows trustless transfer of assets. And hopefully this will replace Gateway, and then we'll have true decentralized ways of trading assets, whether it be Veet native or not, on VTEX. And that's the next thing we want to get to. So based on top of all the infrastructure level, though, we obviously want to grow the ecosystem in terms of developers, applications, DAOs, and also we're getting into NFTs. So essentially once you have the smart contract, the types of things that you can do with it, essentially what you can do on Ethereum, on Solana, on Avalanche, you can do on Veet, right? And we just had our hackathon, and our hackathon had 13 entries. It was pretty good. We got an NFT stack entry. We got someone submit a MetaMask for Veet. We got quite a few tip bots on Twitter, and then also some basic structures for building out DeFi. And let's see. So we got a few DAOs now on Veet. I talked about Vino earlier, right? Vino is the gateway that allows Nano to be traded on VTEX. We got the Vitamin coin, which is a meme coin community. We got a couple more coming up. And we basically have quite a few developers coming into our ecosystem every week asking for more information and looking for ways to work together. We just launched a developer DAO. We call it the Vild DAO. There's a token being issued now, Vild, Vild. So that's more of a badge of honor. If you get it, that means you have been contributing to Veet as a builder. And we'll be releasing a mechanism for how to become a Vild DAO member. And also we'll be launching a list of bounties for people to continue to contribute through the developer DAO. So maybe let me stop there. I could go on for quite a while too, but let me just stop there and see if you have any questions or if I can clarify on something further.
Yeah. So right now, how are you solving? Why don't we get into the spam issue of how you're different than Nano? Like dig deeper into that. So I know like Nano did an update and they say they solved their spam issue.
Right.
that ground Nano to a slow. It didn't grind it to a halt, but it definitely slowed it down a little bit and knocked a few nodes out of sync. What are you doing differently than they're doing?
So yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what the patch is that they put in recently to solve the problem. I suspect it's going to be similar in spirit. Essentially, when you have a chain that allows transfers at zero fees, a natural problem is people are going to abuse it, right? And so I think philosophically, the way to solve that problem is to require that people slow down when they do transactions or put in some incentive or put in some, I would say, hurdle. So you would need to pay more in order to have a higher throughput. And the essence of our solution is we have something called a locking mechanism. If you lock zero Vite, meaning you have zero Vite, you can use the network, but you are a couple of things. Number one is you need to do proof of work, not to be confused with the proof of work for Bitcoin, but this is the proof of work for essentially solving cryptographic puzzles as a throttle for your transaction. So it's going to slow you down. And if you lock Vite, however, then you get something called quota. And the quota essentially gives you extra throughput that you can use. So it's sort of like a freemium model. And the more Vite you lock, the more transactions you can do per unit of time. And when the amount of quota that you obtain per amount of Vite that you lock will also be dynamically adjusted according to the congestion of the network. So in a nutshell, that is the problem. That is the solution that we put in.
So my question for that, and I'm gonna, go at you a little bit. So be prepared. My question for that is, what we've seen throughout history is that competitors are willing to spend a lot of money to try to destroy competition, right?
Okay.
Because if they spend $100 million to destroy your platform, and your platform is doing $120 million worth of revenue every year, then for them, they've profited $20 million potentially more by destroying you. So it's worth it for them in the long run to spend that $100 million to take you down. So what would stop somebody from buying a certain amount of Vite, locking it, and then spamming the network to grind it to a halt, and then having somebody else say, see, Vite can't handle the traffic?
Right. So the amount of Vite that you would need to purchase in order to grind the network to a halt will increase significantly as the network becomes more congested. So the amount of Vite that you will need to lock and obtain a certain amount of quota, that actually changes dynamically when the throughput is already very high on the network. Now, of course, if someone is a billionaire and they're economically inelastic, right? They're willing to spend lots of money and be economically irrational to destroy you. I mean, that could potentially happen, but I think that's the very similar argument as how certain state actors can destroy Bitcoin by doing empty block attacks. They could buy up hash power and then just get more hash power than 51% of the hash power, and then just only mine empty blocks and not allow any transactions to get on, which is essentially the equivalent of spamming attack for that network. But the cost for that would be very high. And I think the other thing is, I think if somebody were to try to do that to us, I would assume it's after we've gotten to a certain size, we've had certain amount of success, we've grown the community somewhat, and at that point, the price of Vite would also have gone up substantially from where it is now. So I think at that point, then the cost of attacking our network is even stronger, right? It is even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, people are irrational. That's why I ask these questions, because all attacks that are unknown come across as irrational. until
Yeah.
you figure out why the person did it, and then it's like, oh, okay, that was pretty calculated, you know.
So
Um,
yeah, so I think a simple a simple response to an adversarial attack like that would just be hard fork the network, tune the parameters such that the cost becomes even more costly. And so, of course, I mean, it's one of these things where it's one-upmanship, right? You do that, and that person is persistent in bringing down the network. They could up the ante on their side and buy more Veet, or just expend more economic resources. But I don't know. So that's a good question. So I think that maybe it's worth doing some kind of economic analysis as to how much will cost when, like doing a matrix of when Veet is worth X, how much it would cost to bring down the network and so forth. And then what kind
yeah,
of response we could get.
yeah, and not even necessarily price, but what percentage of Veet would somebody have to lock up to be able to do that for X amount of time, you know,
Yeah.
and then the question, and this isn't a question against Veet, this is a question against all cryptocurrencies that have the ability to hard fork, is who's hard forking? Is it a small team? Is it decentralized? Is it like, because I mean,
The
even
hard fork,
Bitcoin, who claims
yeah.
to be like totally, you know, they're like, oh, we're so decentralized. It's like, no, there's like 12 of you in the Bitcoin core team. And it's just like, it's a very small group of people who make that decision. And obviously
Yeah,
it's the
we
people
have,
who are running nodes and mining that follow through with that decision. But um,
right. So a couple of points. So our consensus algorithm is delegated proof of stake. So only the super nodes, aka we call them snapshot block producers or SBPs, they need to upgrade. And that's the only hard fork that needs to happen. So right now there are 40 SBPs and we get 2/3 of them to upgrade and we're fine. And then the other thing is regarding what you said about the attacks, we actually have historical evidence that we can look to, right? So Nano was attacked, EOS was attacked, and so for both of them, I think the main value proposition is low cost of transaction, and that's one of the reasons why they could get abused. In fact, I think for EOS it was accidentally attacked because I think there was some token that was so popular, everyone tried to get it, and it was like the CryptoKitty equivalent sort of attack. Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, if you look at what happened since then, so Nano, I think it was attacked when they were maybe $8, $9, and then they came down, and now they're like $6 or something, and they're coming back up. And I would also argue a big reason why they came down so much is because of the general atmosphere in crypto, right? The China crackdown, the government
yeah,
regulations, right? Because they're not alone in the price drop.
yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, so similar story with EOS. I haven't checked their market cap for a while, but my understanding is that they actually had some very rapid, uh, rapid pumps recently, and that was long after the attack happened. So, I mean, the thing is that it takes a long time to build these communities, and generally, I think everyone can only handle a, a handful of coins in their, uh, should I say, in their cognitive acknowledgement.
Yeah.
As in, it's very difficult for you to forego the knowledge that you have obtained with this coin. The cost of substitution is too high, right? So therefore, I think after you get the community to be a certain size and you patch the problem, you show ability to forestall similar attacks, then the community moves on with you.
Good point. That is true. I mean, like I can feasibly manage about 4 or 5 coins in my head and keep track of them on a daily basis. Anything more than that, I start to just lose interest. I start to feel overwhelmed and I stop paying attention. So that's a really good point.
Yes.
And same thing with
Yes.
NFTs. Like,
Oh boy.
you know, I try to go into like 10 different NFTs and I just like, I'm overwhelmed and I'm going to go take a break. And then I take a break for like 2 weeks and I completely like miss all the pumps or whatever. And so, yeah, it's a great point about we only have so much mental real estate to handle this kind of stuff. Um,
Right. Yeah, so if you should really if you gain a community member, you should cherish that person. If you gain a developer, you should treasure that person. So and then that person will then continue to develop interest in your coin and support your community and so forth.
And that's a really good point. And I've felt this way as the host of this show. I feel like it's disingenuous for me to be one of those like 100% interested parties into a crypto and go all in on it, because the whole purpose of the show is to be skeptical and question and look around and constantly be open to new things. And it makes it like emotionally difficult for me to say, I'm going to go all in on Nano, or I'm going to go all in on Ethereum, or I'm going to go all in and be a part of be a member of that community and only stick to that Discord and not look around too much and blah, blah. And I feel like, just like, so as an avid crypto person, I feel like I'm missing out on the emotional connection with a community because I feel like it's my job to be skeptical. And so it really resonates when you say, once you have one of those people who have made that emotional commitment, to like really cherish them and stick with them, because there is just so much noise everywhere, and it's so easy to get distracted with the latest shiny NFT or, Shiba Inu or whatever. Like, it's so easy to get distracted when you have one of those people. I mean, that really resonates.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think I can sort of understand the perspective of wanting to diversify, just even from a portfolio management perspective. If you were buying stocks or buying precious metal or something, or buying commodity, you don't just say go all in on Google, right? You could be saying, buying the FANGs, right? Or, I mean, the other thing is, there's so many new things happening in crypto. I think for anyone to be curious and keeping an open mind, it's like, even if you were not just trying to trade and here for purely monetary reasons, as an intellectual endeavor, it also makes sense to look around and see what's going on, right? And in fact, I think even as the leaders of projects, you should have a habit of keeping up with the times, right? Otherwise, you're just closing yourself off. There can be many other things happening outside that you could learn to adapt for your own. So that's another way to also staying robust and strong for your project.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole purpose of a decentralized ecosystem and a like, what's the word, where you don't have patents and stuff like that. Open source. Like, the whole purpose of an open source and decentralized system is to constantly be learning from everybody else and constantly incorporating their technology into your own technology. But when you have like maximalism, like Bitcoin maximalism or Ethereum maximalism or whatever, like it kind of, in my mind, is the antithesis of cryptocurrency and science and math and open source. And I'm always stunned when someone says, "Oh, no, this is the way. My 15-year-old technology is the way, and it'll never be obsolete." I'm just like, what? Like, do you not understand how science works? Do you not understand how math works? Do you not understand how evolution works? And it's so foreign to me.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised to find out how many proclaimed maxis also hold other coins, though. So, I mean, I know Bitcoin maximalists that actually have Ethereum. They have publicly mentioned as such, but they also call themselves maxi. So I think part of this is also maybe brand building. Once you have established yourself as of a certain type, in order to placate your fans, right, your fan base, you sort of continue to continue that trope, right? So yeah, but I think that, yeah. So I think there's a difference between what people say versus what they actually do.
Yeah. So talk to me about mining, because I went to your website and it just says mining, and immediately my skin kind of crawls. I was like, ugh. But I'm assuming it's not Bitcoin mining, Ethereum mining that we're very aware is not so great for the planet. And
I see. Okay.
is using a ton of of energy. I mean, is it like ASIC mining, or is that the kind of mining you're talking about?
No, it's
As I
not.
just
It's not.
painted myself into a corner.
No. It's maybe we should change the name at some point. But so there's different types of, should I say, coin production or block production that takes. Actually, no, coin production is the right word that takes place. So I think the one that's probably the most interesting for your listeners would be staking Vite in order to obtain VX. So let me quickly explain what that means, right? So Vite is the public blockchain. It's the layer one, right? You can think of it as Ethereum, as Solana or Avalanche, or God forbid, Binance Smart Chain, right? and then VTEX is the application, the decentralized exchange application that's built on top of Vite, right? So that's sort of like your Uniswap, your PancakeSwap, except it's order book. Except it's order book, so you can do limit orders and not just simple market orders. And now VTEX actually comes with its own token called VX, right? And VX is issued on top of Vite. It's like ERC20, right, for Ethereum, except it's issued on Vite. But so I think the one takeaway here is that when you trade on this exchange, you will receive VX tokens, and the trading is one way to mine VX. So essentially, and why do you want VX? VX will entitle you to proceeds from the exchange. So any kind of trading fees accrued by the exchange will go to a pool and distributed to VX holders. So naturally, you want to get VX in order to obtain those distributions. And one way to get VX is to trade. Another way to do it is to stake Vite, and you also get VX, right? What else can you do? You can also do referrals. If you refer other traders onto the exchange, you also get VX. And if you list a coin on a VTEX, you also get VX. So, and one last thing is if you do market making, if you just do limit orders, you also get VX. So these are the 5 different ways to get VX. And with VX, you'll get distribution from the exchange.
And the distribution from the exchange, talk about that. So are you just distributing VX, or are you distributing?
No. Oh, I see. So the distribution is BTC, ETH, and USDT. Currently, VTEX only has 3 markets. So there's the BTC market, ETH market, and the USDT market. Actually, there's one more, Vite market. So any coin that gets listed on VTEX might get one or more of trading pairs. And these trading pairs would be from one of these markets. For example, if you were to list, let's say Vitamin Coin, right? Vitamin Coin, the meme coin that I previously talked about, it might have just the one pair against USDT, or it could have 3 pairs against BTC, USDT, and Vite. And the distribution, and then every time someone trades these pairs, just like on any other exchange, there's a fee, right? And that fee gets collected into a pool. And then that pool gets distributed. And so, but the way to get that distribution is you have to stake VX. So, okay. It's a little bit of a, something that requires some elaboration. So when you trade, you get VX, right? So very simple. Let's say you just make a trade. You buy, say, 1 Vitamin coin with 1 Vite, right? You make that trade. You give up your Vite to get the Vitamin coin. Okay. Now the exchange clips a fee, right? But simultaneously, it also gives you VX. Okay. So now you have some VX. Now, if you stake the VX, you'll get distribution from the pool of incomes generated by the exchange. So, I mean, I think the best way to understand is think about Binance, right? So,
no, I mean,
so
Binance, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, so like if I have 10% of VX staked on, like if I have 10% staked of all VX staked, I'm getting 10% of the rewards of the trades, of the percentage of the trades, essentially, roughly, or the dispersion of the trades. obviously whoever runs Vitex is getting some of the fees to keep managing it, and the rest are distributed based on a percentage of your stake.
Oh, yes.
VX?
Right.
Okay.
So every action that mines VX, every action that creates extra VX, some of that VX will be taxed. It's a developer tax, right? That goes to the team that maintains VTax, like you said.
Yeah.
And then the other 90% gets distributed.
Wow.
And yes.
That's a big cut. Nice. So how are you creating liquidity for VX? Are people creating liquidity pairs like they do on Ethereum with like Uniswap, or is it single-sided liquidity, or like how does that work?
So the liquidity very much comes from the incentive, right? So you can market make in order to receive VX, right? So earlier I mentioned there are 5 different mechanisms to get VX. Trading is only one of them. Market making is another. Market making just means putting limit orders on there, right? So take the vitamin coin example. You could put a limit order to sell vitamin coin at 2 Vite, and you wait for that order to be picked up by someone else. By doing so, you have provided liquidity to the order book, and to reward you for such action, you are given some VX as a result. So because people want to earn VX, they would come and place these limit orders, and that's how you bootstrap the liquidity. That's one way. Another way to bootstrap liquidity is, so we have this concept called operators. So anyone can apply to become an operator. And as an operator, your main responsibility is just list coins and do customer service, right? So for example, Vino is one of our operators. Sometimes I use the term operator and gateway interchangeably, but I think the right term is operator. So Vino, they have listed Nano as a coin on their gateway. I think they will be listing Banano soon too as well, if not already. And when people trade on the coin listed by that operator, they would generate fees that would go and pay a certain small amount of fees would go to pay the operators, and the leftover amount of the fees will go into the pool that gets distributed to the VX holders. But whether you trade through this gateway or some other gateway, you always get VX in return. So yes, so another way, I was answering the question of how do you generate liquidity. So another way to generate liquidity is to get these operators to list coins that people want, right? If you think about any other exchange out there, centralized or decentralized, how do they generate liquidity outside of giving incentives? Is to list coins that people want to trade. And so in the past, Veet has actually, multiple of our gateways have listed coins that are sort of rare, but have a sizable community. So there's so many different projects out there, right? There are coins with sizable communities that somehow do not get picked up by large exchanges.
Yeah.
And there's many different reasons, because some are not ERC20, so they're harder to integrate, and some are just not big enough. There's that Goldilocks range, and we find those coins and then recommend the gateways to list them. So that's another way of attracting traffic.
And so the gateway is essentially bringing in a large enough pool of that coin to provide enough liquidity to make it feasible to trade?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Although just one correction, and that is because we're an order book decentralized exchange. So we don't have the concept of a liquidity pool the same way Uniswap does.
Yeah.
So, but the pool is similar in the sense that you're bringing in a community of people that have those coins that want to trade those coins.
Okay.
So
you don't even need to have the gateway, or the operator doesn't even need to have any coins themselves, as long as they're bringing the community who are willing to market make. Essentially.
That's correct.
Okay.
But to bootstrap liquidity, though, generally they do have some reserves. So at the beginning, there might not be enough liquidity. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's crazy how quickly the vocabulary has changed since Uniswap came out just like a year and a half ago. It's insane, where now everything is providing liquidity and liquidity and liquidity, whereas I don't think I ever said those words. Like, I said that word before Uniswap was a thing. Even with IDEX, even with Ether Delta, it was never about providing liquidity. It was about, I mean, we knew what liquidity was. It wasn't a liquid market, but it was always about market makers. So it's interesting
Yeah,
how quickly everything's shifted, and it seems like you're going back to a way that is a lot, may not necessarily be as user friendly, because
yeah,
market buying is pretty damn user friendly, but it's a lot more fine tuned for somebody who knows what they're doing and doesn't want to potentially have a market buy screw up and have one of those massive wick candles that we see all the time.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the difference between an AMM and a order book DEX is maybe the difference between an auto and a shift. Like if you were to drive a car with a stick, you could do a lot more with it, but you also have to learn how to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but separately though, we are looking at the AMM space. It is more user friendly. It appeals to a different crowd, and it's just another option for our users. So what we're doing there is simultaneously we are radically decentralizing our developer base. So we're looking for more community builders, right? That's why I mentioned the builder DAO earlier. We call them builders to create new types of applications on top of Vite. And AMM is definitely very important what we're looking at.
So if somebody creates an AMM, is that going to be a competitor to Vitex, or is that something that would be incorporated into Vitex as like basic mode and versus professional mode, and you could click between which one you wanted?
I think they will be complementary. So right now, if you want to do if you do the AMM, I think there's an opportunity to have the people that use the AMM also be able to use the decentralized exchange. So it would basically be two options for a trader, right? And I think it would be interesting to see how people respond to the different options. I think the thing is that I think there's a certain group of people that just don't use, that just aren't as interested in putting on limit orders. They somehow just like the AMM feature.
Yeah.
I think a big part of the AMM draw of AMM is actually the tokens that they give out, the governance tokens, which we'll also have with our own AMM. So, yeah, but I think to answer your question, I think that the two of them will be complementary.
Just because I know Serum is doing something where, I don't know if it's Serum on Solana, where
Serum is order book DEX.
But that's like the base layer. You can't really use Serum. It's everybody who builds on top of it and builds their own AMMs, but it's all coming from the same pool essentially, right?
Okay. I don't know. I think Serum has its own order book. And Serum also has another AMM counterpart called Radium. But I think that you can do the simple swap on Radium, which is essentially a
because I don't think Serum. I mean, Serum doesn't have its own website, right? I was under the impression that Serum didn't, and then people had to build on top of it to have access to their order book.
There is a Serum.com or Serum.io though. If you go there and you click on something, it actually goes to Radium.com. So, I mean, I don't know, but on the Radium.com interface, you can actually put in limit orders.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely used Radium a few times. And for me, it's one of the smoother ones, but I know that they were even having issues for a while and people were switching over to other ones. But I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that works out for you. Do you have an ETA on your white paper, or is it just kind of the white paper's out there and you're not trying to rush it? Or
the Veet Bridge white paper?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Veet Bridge, to reiterate an earlier point, it is a cross-chain, a generic cross-chain protocol that allows asset transfers between chains in a trustless manner. And that was an inspiration from us having operated a decentralized exchange. And so the white paper was released earlier this year. We are releasing a Veet Bridge 0.1 version at the end of the year. And so with that one, you will be able to do cross-chain between Veet and another chain in a trustless manner. And then we will expand from that point on.
Nice. I forgot to ask one question about the quote unquote mining / issuance. I think issuance is a better word. I think it'll trigger less environmentalists like me and automatic blues.
Okay. Right.
When you pay VX to make a transaction and you get some back, what's the percentage breakdown? Like if I pay 10, am I getting 4 back? Am I getting 9 back? Am I getting 1 back? Like is there a consistent ratio?
Yeah, so the math doesn't work like that. The way it works is that a certain amount of VX gets released every day, no matter what. So the way it works is, suppose on the entire day, right? And this is highly unlikely, but there's only one trade, and there's no one making market making. There's no one referring other users. There's no listing, and then there's no staking. Okay, there's only one trade happening. Then that trade, whoever did that trade, will obtain the entire amount of VX released that day.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
But I'm only using this hyperbolic example to illustrate how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then every day, lots of people do many different things. So then they end up sharing the VX that's released.
So you're not getting it immediately after the trade. Are you getting it like at the end of the day once all the trades have been tallied and you figure out what the percentage breakdown is?
Yeah, we release on a schedule. I think it's a 24-hour schedule. That's right.
Okay, nice.
And then once you get those VX coins, you can stake them in order to earn the distribution from the exchange.
Okay.
And of course, VX itself also has value. You can sell it on an exchange.
Sure.
You can sell it on Vitex.
I mean, just getting a percentage of the trading fees is huge. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I mean, I want to make this joke about BNB. It's like BNB, except you get the proceeds, which BNB doesn't give you, and also you can earn Vitex by just making a trade, which BNB also doesn't give you. So yeah. I guess it's not like BNB in any way at all.
Well, I mean, I understand the connection to it. It just seems a lot. It's much more broader.
Yes, it's another exchange token, except you can get it by just trading, and it also gives you the rewards, which neither BNB does. So, but I think BNB might be a good place to begin with to explain to someone the concept of an exchange token.
Yeah, absolutely. What is so theoretically, let's say 10 years down the road, you have 15,000 cryptos listed on your exchange.
Right.
Are people staking VX going to be forced to break down 15,000 coins to exchange them into the one they want? Or is there going to be some kind of bot to do that automatically and say, I want everything converted to ETH or XYZ? Because I could see that being just a huge time suck and pain in the ass. And also fee wise, just, losing half my income, half my rewards just on trying to trade out of, XYZ shitcoin that I don't think is ever going to go anywhere.
Oh, I mean, so if there's a selection of 15,000 coins on the exchange, people can feel free to trade whatever they want. And every trade, regardless of what pair it is, will earn some VX. And then you can stake the VX to earn distribution from the exchange. And the distribution will be in the form of USDT, ETH, or BTC.
Oh, so like if like say Nano's there, you're not getting a percentage of the Nano, you're getting it converted to ETC or
correct, because
Ethereum
the trading
BTC.
fee
okay.
Because the trading fee is denominated in the market it belongs to. So right now there's only 4 markets, right? USDT, BTC, ETH, and Veet. So if you do a trade, let's say Nano against BTC, then you pay a fee in BTC, right? That fee sits in some pool, and then that gets distributed only in BTC form. You're never going to pay a fee in Nano, so therefore you're never going to receive a distribution in Nano.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So
then one thing I didn't mention is, right, so people might have noticed, well, you said you're going to receive distribution in BTC, ETH, USDT, but what about Vite? Vite is one of the markets as well. That's
yeah,
because it gets burned. That's a separate treatment. So the Vite fee for Vite trading pairs, that gets burned. So in fact, that's why Vite is sort of hyper-sound money. The total supply has barely changed since we started, even though there's a 30 million Vite inflation, roughly 3% a year. But that has been counteracted through the Vite burns.
gotcha. Okay. And you said I was going to pay, if I'm doing a Nano to BTC trade, I'm paying the fees in BTC.
Right.
So that's coming off the back end. So if I'm selling 10 Nano and I get 0.0001 BTC, I'm actually getting 0.00098 BTC because that's where the fee, like that, the fee's coming off of that end and going into the pot, right?
So, so I'm not sure if the math works out exactly like you said, but
It does.
yes,
I'm just throwing numbers out of the top. I'm pulling them out of my ass.
right. So if you
But essentially,
if you do the trade, you remit fees in BTC. That fee gets sucked into some pool, and then that gets distributed the uh, according to the proportional to the VX holdings.
gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't. Okay. Cool. So I wanted to dig into. Hold on. Let me grab my phone. I had a question about. Yeah. So one thing I would say mining referrals that might trigger a lot of people in the clean energy space. So that'd be my one comment about that word or that phrase.
Okay.
But I'm looking at. So I created an account. I added Nano and Banano, and then you have Ethereum and Ethereum Vite token, and then you have Nano, and they both say Vite token, but one's Nano 001 and one's Nano 000, and then Ban has 000. So can you explain the difference between, like, there's the Vite old ERC20 token, and then the new Vite, which is Vite coin. So can you explain the different denominations?
Yes. So let me quickly explain what the numbers mean, because we have these gateways on Vite, these operators. They each can list their own. They each can list the same coin, right? So if
Gotcha.
I'm Vino, I list Nano Banano now, but I could list, I don't know, let's say BNB sometime in the future if I want to, right?
Yeah.
But what if that's already listed by some other gateway already? How do we differentiate? So you need some way to differentiate. So that's why we come up with a numbering mechanism. And then the difference between the Vite and the Vite old is that the Vite old that you're looking at, that's an ERC20, right?
Yeah.
And so before we launched our mainnet, the Vite tokens were in ERC24. And that ERC20 Vite old you're looking at is the old ERC20 representation. But most of it has already been mapped over to the Vite native.
Okay. So if I wanted to, let's say I'm using Natrium, which is a Nano wallet for anybody listening who's unfamiliar with it, how would I get Nano onto the Veet iOS app?
So you would go to, let's see, I think you would open Nano 002 and then click on, there's a cross-chain deposit button, right?
Yeah.
Let me open it too. And the cross-chain deposit button, once you click on it, will show you a QR code and also an address. It's a destination address for the deposit. So you would take the Natrium app and scan that QR code, or just enter that Nano address and transfer however many nanos you want. And later on, that nano will be locked in the Vino gateway, and a commensurate amount of Nano 002 tokens will appear in your wallet, your Veet wallet.
Okay.
Not your Natrium wallet, your
Yeah.
Veet wallet.
Yeah. So, and just to clarify, or just to reiterate, you said that currently gateways / operators are essentially centralized right now, right?
Correct. They have custody, but that's why we want to move away from that.
Yeah.
There's no other easy way to do cross-chain right now.
Sure. Yeah. No,
Anywhere.
and I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's like it's the first stages. Like all the bridges right now going between like Optimism and Avalanche or Polygon to Avalanche, those are all, from my knowledge, like essentially centralized exchange makers who have funds on both sides and just, make it work. That's how they can get it done so quickly. So it's not a knock against you guys, especially since you have the white paper out. But I just want people to be aware, if they're using this, that part of it is centralized. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I feel like that's a great place to end, this interview, and then maybe like once you release point one, might be a good time to maybe like, a few months after that and see how it goes, and maybe come back on and talk about the experience and how it's working out. Do you have anything else you want to like make sure people know?
Right. So yes, aside from everything I've talked about, people should also check out a few other things that's happening. So I did mention the developer DAO. So a couple of things, right? So if you're a developer, you're looking for a full-time employment opportunity, the Veet Labs team is actively hiring right now. You should check out our post. It's on our Twitter. So twitter.com/Veet Labs, VITELABS. So check that out. If you just want to do a part-time gig, or if you're interested in trying your hand, there's 2 other ways to get involved. We do have a hackathon. We will have another hackathon we're trying to do once every few months. And this is usually with Gitcoin. And another way to get involved is through the developer DAO that I mentioned earlier. If you do, that's essentially an ongoing bounty system. You can think of it that way. And aside from these, we also have something called the SBP DAO program. So SBP stands for Snapshot Block Producer. It's basically our super nodes. And if you were to form a DAO from that program, you will be rewarded the token rewards from our SBP on on ongoing basis. So the way our consensus algorithm works is you run a node and then you receive block rewards. A standard practice, right? And then what we'll do after you launch a DAO is we will sponsor that DAO with an SBP, right? So as the DAO owner, you would be entitled to rewards from the SBP. And so what does the DAO do? It can be a cultural DAO, similar to Vitamin Coin. It could be a developer DAO. So similar to, let's say, actually, I think it's probably more better named a function DAO. So essentially an application DAO, similar to Vino. It could be also an investor DAO. So you could essentially try to invest in other projects that are being launched on Veet. And so these are the various ways you could get involved. And so lastly, I guess I should also try to talk about 2 other things. It's personal effort, but it's also related to Veet. One is I do run a crypto comedy show, and it's called Laugh DAO. It has laugh tokens issued on Veet. So if you get involved, you can also earn some laugh tokens, which are of no value, right? But it's just fun to have, badge of honor. And I trust I can send you the link for it and people can find it. But you can go to twitter.com/laughdao. It's pretty funny. Weekly John Oliver style 5-minute recap for news happening in the space. And then the other thing is I have a podcast similar to Michael here called the Blockchain Debate Podcast. Get interesting folks come on and debate a hot topic of the day within the blockchain space. And you can find that on Block Debate. That's twitter.com/Block Debate. We're on Twitter.
Nice.
And that's all.
Sorry. Go ahead. Is that okay?
No,
and I'll have all that in the show notes. Always got to plug your own work. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm serious about like when a few months after point one drops, I definitely want to have you back on because I think that other chains are trying something similar with like Atom and Cosmos and all that. But I think I think what you're doing is exciting because it is, it pushes back against that whole crypto is bad for the environment thing. And that's why Nano and Veet seem so important and integral into the future of the blockchain space and cryptocurrency space. So
yes, thank you for the kind words.
Yeah,
we'll be happy to come back.
Thank you for coming on, and thanks everybody for listening. And if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to Richard, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michael, for doing this.